I made $1,200 day trading SPY live on a hard day, and I want to show you what exactly a hard day looks like when you're day trading SPY, because every day is not an easy day, that's for dang sure. But that's what most things in life, right? So when it came to SPY, let me go ahead and pause this, by the way. This is a recording of when I was trading live, so I'm going to show you a play-by-play, minute candle by minute candle by minute candle. So first, before we get to that component of me doing that, this is that same chart, right? Overall, let me get the right tool out here. Overall, this is what we were looking at. We were looking at my main strategy, which is trading major supply zones, which is this piece right here for that current day, to our two candles agreeing for the high here and the high here at that point in time. And then we had the major demand zone over here, where the low here and the low here with two candles agreeing to each other. Drawing it over, the idea is that once it comes back for a retest on the 1 minute chart, which is up here, so it comes back for a retest over here, that's where a play potentially can happen. So the issue, and why I found out pretty early on that if this is going to be a difficult day, is purely off the bounce of the volume of the candles, and also what happens on the next zone period. So on this piece here, we had this candle here, which is the red one, is the zone candle, which gives us exactly what we want, right? It did give us a bounce. Then this green one right here is the reversal candle. This green one is a huge confirmation candle, and then the entry candle is right here. So we enter literally here. And realistically, I'm not going to enter a trade if I'm majority trades. I'm not entering here if my stop loss, with the strategy the way it is on top of this zone. I'm not betting all of this to make this piece, because I'm basically wanting to lose more than make more, or it's almost kind of close to 50-50, but still, I don't like that kind of piece there. If this was an entry candle and it was down here, perfectly fine, right? But up here, way too far. Past VWAP, etc., I don't want to do that. So that was already a little annoying, but I was thinking that's fine. Ideally, we have the major supply zone up here, so what should happen is that it can come up, hit this zone, and then give us some candles going down, right? And then it just rockets back down. So we take a play from up here and then goes back down. And look literally what happened. It just broke clean through like nothing was even there. So right all the way in the morning was already somewhat decently kind of annoying, realistically, right? So with those two in mind, that kind of made me think, okay, from a play-by-play perspective, we go back to the chart here. When I was looking at the chart, I was thinking, as you can see with those red lines there, and the little green rectangles I'm drawing there when I was live, I was thinking, okay, it can potentially go up to tap the next closest zone, which I'll walk through soon, and then come down for an option put. And then once it does that, then on top, it can do an option call to the upside. So if I go back to the drawing piece really quickly to kind of explain what I'm talking about there. So I was looking at this, right? I'm thinking, okay, so maybe it can come up, hit this zone, and then start coming down for a put. And maybe I could take a play off of that. And if you're wondering where that zone came from, since it's a hard day and it's a trending day where it already broke through the high of the day here, I had to look for what I call a multi-day zone, which is just a fancy term I just made up essentially for a major supply zone or major demand zone, but a major supply zone in this case from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 days ago, just the past 5 days basically. And so this is where we are currently on this bottom chart over here on the bottom right. This is where price currently is. So I basically look to the left, and 2 days before we have the closest zone, because there's no zones up in this area, and over here the closest zone here is in this 522.46. And FYI, just because I think for context, this trade specifically of when this is about to happen, where I made my $1,200, the date is May 14th, 2024. So it's very recent. But yeah, so we went ahead and found this zone, drew it all the way over to the right hand side, and on the 1 minute chart, this is basically what it looks like. So ideally, I was thinking if it's going to keep going up, maybe it's going to hit this, be one of those weird annoying days, tap this thing, come back downward. If it does great, maybe I can take a put. If it doesn't, then that's fine, as I have my little red lines indicated. Then maybe it can bounce off the current major supply zone to the upside for a continued option call. So it's either a put to make money on the downside or a call to make money on the upside. So if we go back to the actual chart and again kind of play this out, I want to kind of walk through piece by piece here. So you see that current candle forming on the top left screen is a 1 minute candle that's kind of going up towards that major supply zone. So I was essentially kind of waiting for it to happen and maybe get a little closer, maybe forming some kind of resistance to push back down to the downside, ideally. And then I had drawn these little colorful candles, essentially saying, okay, I'm kind of call biased, right? So I'm thinking if it does go back down to the bottom and hits in that area, exactly where the little green candle is, where I'm kind of showing where entry is, I'm like, that's where a potential entry would be if it comes down and bounces off of that piece there. So I really wanted to kind of currently literally rocket down to that area and then bounce up for that entry. So I was looking at this candle as it's forming right now, a little 1 minute thing. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to shoot down. This is a stupid, annoying day. It's definitely not going to give me a put off the zone, but just in case, I'll have the zone drawn. So it's forming and still, and I'm just kind of fixing the terms, I guess, essentially saying it was a call of what I was looking to do. Even though it was looking like it wasn't really giving me the friction or the aggressiveness of the volume of the candles, right? Because we had so much volatility towards the bottom when it was rocketing up past the major supply zone, but now it's not. But then it started forming red, so it got interesting, and it acted like it did have some friction against that zone. So then I was a little confused on what to do. I'm thinking, do I potentially take a put to the downside if it works or not? And then great, what just happened was a doji formed. And you see my mouse is kind of hovering over it live at the time. And I was thinking, okay, if a doji formed on the 1 minute chart, typically anyway, that means that it's a change of direction that's basically about to happen. So it is for sure going to come down. And I'm thinking, okay, if it does come down and it rockets down to the bottom, I can take my call. But if it does come down only slightly, then maybe I could do an option put. But at the time, that red candle was pretty aggressive with it coming down. So I'm thinking that's like the other trade that was going up. I don't want to do that. That looks annoying. But I kind of started looking and I'm thinking, okay, wait a second. The doji candle is basically the reversal candle. The green candle before the doji candle is a little white stick looking thing, by the way. So the doji is the reversal, and that red candle is the confirmation candle. And so if that red candle is a confirmation candle, because again, it's a difficult day and it's showing downward direction from a trend direction, the next candle, if it's red, is an entry candle. And it started forming, and I almost dang near couldn't believe it because it was a decent entry, not too far away from the top. I maybe could enter it. I was waiting and I was like, it has to just not work. And I finally went over to that option piece over here where I'm pulling it up, start to kind of pick an option, pick strike price of 522, same day expiration contract for the option contracts. And it only costs 0.84, which for context, by the way, it's only $85 if you bought one, so everybody can afford that. But I buy 100 because that's just the default amount I buy, so you can do that math of that. But bought in at 0.87, and I was thinking, okay, cool. Well, if it goes down to the bottom, then we got my play, and it taps it, and then I can go ahead and sell for profit. And then that way, maybe right away, I could potentially do a call to that upside as I want it to. So if I pause this live piece here and go back to my messy screen where we had our drawings, right? What essentially happened was I wanted it to come down here, or I'll draw it over here, just an example, right? So we had our doji candle, we had like a confirmation candle. This doji was a reversal. I'll go back for a second. So we had things going up, right? And we had the zone candle, reversal candle, which was the doji here, confirmation candle, and then we had a little tiny entry, literally basically about in this area, right? So it showed downward direction was happening. So my take profit is this zone. My stop loss in this scenario was the top of here. So I was willing to lose this amount to gain, that amount to basically gain, if I can draw it, this larger amount, right? This line's much larger than that line. So I was fine with that. So we played that out. And again, by the way, if I'm like, okay, if it bounces off the major supply and it goes upward, then we can, make money twice, literally 2 times in a row. So if we go back to the play, you can see it was starting to go against me. So it was negative, $200 or so. Then it popped all the way to negative $600 because I entered basically kind of down here, right? So we were negative a little bit, but the candle was red. So I had hope with it. I still did believe truthfully that it was going to basically rocket down pretty aggressively. At least I hope so anyway, especially with that doji candle that formed. So I went and drew this little alarm basically here to say once it gets down to this price point, which is near my take profit area, right? Then I'll get identified on my phone for me to come back to the screen and actually sell it. Then I have my stop loss piece for the alarm and that yellow bar at the top piece over there at the 522.48, thinking that, hey, if it gets to that point, that's where I sell for that potential loss, and just cut my losses as is. And I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if I did lose this one at the time, because it was a weird day already. So sometimes things just don't go your way. You can't win every trade realistically, right? So I was waiting for it to come down. Ideally, I should have walked away from the screen. I couldn't walk away from the screen because I was a little worried deep down, realistically, because of how this day was. So I just chose to kind of stay there, and you'll see kind of what starts happening. So we do have a red candle going down. Everything's still red. The wicks were a little interesting because they were kind of evening out where that body of that candle currently is at the moment, but it was okay. So it's pushing down, trying to push down, but like I mentioned, the lines of those wicks were really worrying me because they hadn't gone lower. It almost showed like there was friction there, even though it's clearly no friction at all. And then finally pushed down, have my mouse kind of over it at the moment, almost like I'm trying to push it down on my mouse. And letting it try to get down to it. I was getting antsy, essentially, thinking, okay, I guess it's going to hit it. If it does hit it, then maybe I can start looking for more play. Starts pulling back a little bit on the 1 minute candle, start getting a little worried. Because again, choppy days make choppy plays. So started looking over here what the profit looks like. I was like, even though it's down low, I'm only up $500, which made no sense at all. And it started getting a green candle, went over to the right, kept going to the left, thinking, can you go down just a little bit? Then a green candle started to form. Almost wanted to panic sell, being really honest with you, especially at this point, because I was looking at it, because I went in negative at that point at negative $200. Negative, I think it should have gone negative 500 if I remember correctly. Oh, it didn't go though. But negative $200 was the most piece here. And we let it continue to form on that little green candle here. But this is kind of one of the reasons why I like having the strategy that I have. The strategy makes it so you have your planned take profits and you have your planned stop loss. There's no other way for you to exactly sell. So I basically act as though no matter what happens, I only have 2 spots to sell. Realistically 3, but mainly 2 spots to sell. One, a take profit 1, where it's at the bottom because we're doing an option put. Second spot is at the top where the stop loss is, regardless of what's happening. And part 3, just as an extra bonus, is at break even, right? Break even is, for me in my scenario, the way I like to use break even is maybe we've been in a trade that's been going sideways for some time. Go ahead and break even. Clearly it has no way of going down, as an example, or going in your favor. So that's sometimes when I would break even. It's like this is almost a scenario where I was contemplating breaking even. If it would have went sideways for a few more minutes or 2 more minutes, I would have potentially gotten out for a break even if possible. But then some things started to form a little bit red on this 1 minute candle on that top left area. And I was looking at what's the high of when it did get to this piece. So it had got to 0.95 on the option contract when it was in that spot over there, basically. So I put ahead and put an order at 0.95, or actually I put it at 1 because being very happy about thinking maybe it can get higher. So I wanted to sell it at $1,300 in profit, basically on the top right screen on Active Trader. But letting it play out. Then we got a red candle, so it was showing a little bit downward favoritism, which was definitely good. And we kind of let it play a little bit. Starts pushing a little further down. So I remember I was actually pretty happy about this one, because visually, even though it was kind of turning a little green, it was still pulling downward, essentially. But again, it's a choppy day, so you can only do what you can do. And what was very interesting is that, yeah, here it is. On this candle here, it really still, even though it did turn green, anytime it would turn red, the pressure of it pushing down was pretty hard. And then finally, the alarm popped off. Almost couldn't believe it. Should have went down immediately, sold. But I was thinking maybe it'll push a little further. Pulled my piece down to 900 for a sale. Sold a few contracts. I think I sold 15 there because it auto sold, but didn't sell all of them. So I'm letting it sit there. And then we finally sold all of the contracts in total. And now, this is the next trade here. The next trade was an interesting one. Let me go ahead and actually pause this one here. And let me go ahead and screenshot it because I want to walk through my thought process on this piece here specifically. So on this guy, this one was a little terrifying because on this one, again, it's a choppy day, so I just had to play it as it is. We had the major demand zone down here. It's going to be a normal play rather than this multi-day junk all at the top, right? We had a major demand zone on the 5-minute chart over here, and we drew the zone all the way over. Same one from earlier. So as we know, on the 1-minute chart, it showed a nice bounce to the upside, right? We had our zone reversal confirmation, but the entry was just too dang high, right? Even though it did clearly work. And then we kind of finally came back down to it in this spot. But as you can see, there was no bounce at all. And so in my mind, okay, if I was like, okay, if there's no bounce, then I'm assuming it's going to break down, tap, and then come downward for an option put. But as you see, it didn't do that. So no matter when, let me delete this one piece. So I was looking for a zone reversal confirmation entry towards the downside, but it never gave it to me clearly anyway. Because if it's a choppy day, I wanted it to be very, very clean. So we had zone, reversal, confirmation basically here, but no entry candle. Then it kind of went up. We had zone candle, reversal, confirmation. And then you can kind of say this is an entry, but realistically, I needed it cleaner. I couldn't enter the dang thing because I'm like, if this is going to go south, I can't do it. Unless it's like very, very clean trade, being this little guy has to be red, even if it is a little bit of downward direction. So didn't do it, and thankfully I didn't, because look what happened. Literally, it went towards this area. That's part one of why I didn't do it, because this candle wasn't red. Part two, if I go back, I'll show you something which is the real main reason why I actually didn't jump in as well. So if we click the play button here, and I fast forward just a little bit, especially after this piece here. So I noticed it was in an upward trajectory, basically. I just didn't draw it at the time, but an upward trajectory. So did I draw it? Yeah, I'll leave it here. But an upward trajectory. So let me go back to my piece here, because I thought I drew it on that. But you know what? Let's go back. I need a clean one, which is going to be this. Let's get a clean drawing, because I need to show you this, because it's very, very important. So draw that screenshot. Okay. So we had something interesting on 1 minute time frame, because this doesn't have it necessarily as too much anyway, on a very short time frame. So we had this piece here, right? This is a low on the 1 minute time frame. Then we had this piece here. This is a high on the 1 minute time frame. Then we had this piece here, which is a low on the 1 minute time frame. Then we had this piece here, which is a higher high on the time frame, right? Then we had this little guy here with two candles next to each other. Oops, got to finish the circle. Higher high right here. So it's a higher high, higher low and higher high. So I'm thinking, actually, and you can see that before even getting these two pieces, right? Before I did that put, I could see that there was some kind of bounce happening. So if that's the case, then I was thinking realistically, then maybe there's a play for it to come up to here for an option call, and then maybe it would bounce back down to here as a circle, and then it could go up to here as a play. So I was thinking the candles will go boom, boom, because right now I was looking at this, that, this, that, this, that, this. That's the idea of what I was looking for mid-trade or pre-analysis realistically. So if we go back, right, and again, this is a hard day. Like anyone that's looking at this and thinking, that makes no sense, screw that, I would have entered a put, or I would have just stayed out, whatever it is, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to take every trade. You only need a couple anyway. So it doesn't really realistically matter. As long as you're actually making money, then you're perfectly fine. So went ahead and tried to enter on this piece here. So I got an entry at 1.01 here. And the logic behind it really quickly. Let's go back to this piece here. Since this is a harder day, I have to make sure I fully explain everything of why that was an entry and why exactly I entered on that piece. So I'll go ahead and screenshot this. Okay, so you see I entered here, right? And the reason why is because this before was my confirmation candle on this little piece here. So this is my entry candle. This is my confirmation candle, right? And before that, we had this little guy, because if I'm playing it choppy, I have to play it choppy as well. So for me, this was my zone candle. This was my reversal candle, right? And this was initially my confirmation candle, but it went below. So I was thinking, okay, if that's the case, then this is my new confirmation candle, this little green one here. because it's higher than the one over here, and it goes with my theory that it was bouncing upward. So boom, this is my entry candle. Very interesting way to look at it, because it goes in like this kind of chopping fashion, right? You kind of have to piecemeal it together, because it's really, again, it does not matter the color of the candles. Color does not matter. Take that however you want to. But what really matters is the fact that it's directionally correct, especially on a hard day. You're not going to always get this perfect little red candle, green, green, green. Oh, we enter it and then it go up. I mean, sometimes, look at this, right? We talked about this play already, but it's like, this is a green candle, but hell, it's lower than the candle over here, essentially. From a bigger, smaller body perspective, because this red one's engulfing this green one, essentially. So if we go back, I did the entry at the 1.01 on a choppy day, and I'm like, okay, if this thing is already going up, I know it has to pull back very soon, more than likely. And I was only up $300 or so, only up $500 or so at this point right here from that entry. And our take profit is the little zone that I'm drawing right here. Once I finish the drawing at 521.55 minus the little 10 cents piece. And we got that piece there. And it's essentially, we're going to have a target take profit 1 of VWAP, basically. So I start drawing out take profit 1 on my little piece there. And that's essentially where that take profit 1 is going to be at, ideally. And so we had our entry here, and it saw that it had, for this candle that's forming now, I'm thinking that's definitely going to turn red, because we're going to do that pullback for my analysis that I did. So, okay, let's go ahead and prepare for this. Please don't make it go down to the stop loss, essentially, on this choppy, annoying day. If my theory is correct from a visual representation perspective, it should come down really close to my stop loss and then simply just bounce up. And so I started kind of drawing this alarm piece, saying that if it gets above this, then I can go ahead and do my get my alarm, so I can go ahead and take profit. And I'm going ahead and setting alarm below this, basically, as well, in case anything does happen. FYI, if you're also wondering, like, well, if I'm still in front of the screen, why am I drawing the zone, or drawing the alarm, excuse me? It's because it also helps me to get my eyes off the chart. The last thing I want is for me to get out early, because I'm staring so hard that I'm fearful on a choppy day. So I need to have things to do while I'm doing it, so I don't do the wrong thing, right? When you think about it, you got to stay busy. And that's when I start drawing the things that I saw in my head already. I'm like, okay, hey, here's the low, here's the high over here, then here's the next low. I'm like, hey, there's the high, then here's the higher low, essentially this piece. And I'm like, okay, this is the higher high, so that means the higher low should be here. And I'm like, and of course it'll go all the way up here, little higher than, of course, what realistically probably could happen in my mind. But that was the concept of what I was thinking, of what it would get to anyway. Even if I had to do another little kind of dip before it got up to TP1, take profit 1, I'd be perfectly fine, as long as it continues this kind of upward trend on these 1 minute candles. And at the moment on the right, I was negative $800, negative $900, negative $800, $900 or so, with this kind of pullback, basically. So was risking a decent amount just so I can get this type of trade in. But again, I like trading directionally, even if it is on a short time frame period, because to me it makes sense. And so again, was worried, choppy day. I'm thinking, let me draw these candles of what's going to happen, so I can give me something positive to look at. Just be honest. And now I think I drew the last little red one here, at that spot there. I think I should have changed that red, if I remember correctly. But I was thinking it's getting pretty close. Let's look at the right side over there, right? I'm negative. It went to negative 900. I did see it get to that. So I changed this guy red, because I was thinking that's the last red candle that I'm going to see, ideally. And we kept letting it play out. Started to form green, which is nice on this 1 minute play-by-play. Starts coming upward. I'm thinking take profits right up there. Just get up there. Starts getting up there. We had a decent pullback, and everything's going according to plan. It's going to hit VWAP, basically. Gets a little bit close. Starts doing a pullback on the green candle, which I was not necessarily surprised by, because, again, I was thinking, okay, it's definitely going to have a pullback now, since it's been doing this weird little up and down kind of piece here. So I'm thinking it's going to pull back. Small green candle, almost a doji candle, starts turning red on this piece. Starts coming down, starts going back to green, right? And so I just wanted to get out of this trade realistically because I liked it, but I hated it because even though it was only right there, look at my profits. It was only $300. Like it's mixed. When days are so choppy like this, the volatility to the upside is so crappy, right? It's like you just need steady. And so we were at $500, $700 for the high. Go and tried to sell it at $700. Somehow it didn't get my trade filled essentially, even though I thought it was going to keep going up. So we got to 700. It starts pulling back. I freak out a little bit. We pull it down to $500 and it sells at $500 for a profit, which $500 plus the other piece is $1,200 in the profit that we actually made. And everything went according to plan. Everything was just a little sketchy basically. And I believe this kept going up, interestingly enough. One thing I do want to call out as a final piece to this is, let me screenshot this, pull this down, and etc. I do want to call this out. Keep in mind, the put that we talked about earlier is up here. We entered in this spot. We had to take profit at this spot, right? And it kept going down, right? But as you saw, we took it off of a multi-day zone, which is more complicated, a little bit annoying. And it did keep going down. But what's better than massive profits is your sanity. To me, personally, I don't know if you agree with that. Let me know in the comment section below. Am I crazy for valuing my sanity over massive amounts of money? So let me know, I guess. But I'd much rather take this trade all day than me sweat bullets on a choppy, hard day like today than trying to get this huge trade just all the way to the downside and holding through trades like this just because I see a pattern on the 1 minute chart. Because by the way, if I remember correctly anyway, this thing also did go up pretty rapidly, but I don't know that. I can't predict the future. I don't want to predict the future. It'll be more anxiety. So to have less anxiety, to have less stress, to have less of all that junk, just take the profit when you see profit, because you don't make anything until you click the sell button. I don't care how much unrealized profit you have, you still don't have the money until it's in your own bank account.